Welcome to your sleep story. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Whatever this day was, however long it felt, however much it carried, it is behind you now, completely behind you. You made it through, and that is everything. So let's begin. Before I take you anywhere tonight, I want to count you down from 10 to 1. And as I count, I want you to allow yourself to sink just a little deeper into wherever you are right now. Feel the weight of your body. Feel what is beneath you, holding you. And with each number, just let go a little more. 10. Allow your eyes to close. Gently, completely. There is nothing you need to see right now. 9. Feel your shoulders and let them drop as far as they want to go. 8. A slow breath in through the nose. 7. And all the way out. 6. Your hands. Feel them opening. Whatever you've been holding today, you can put it down now. 5. Your jaw is soft. Your face is soft. 4. Your legs are heavy, warm. 3. You're drifting, not asleep yet, but moving that way. 2. The day is behind you, completely and entirely behind you. 1. And now, tonight's sleep story, the relaxation. Before we go anywhere, I want to stay here with you for a moment. Just here, just now, because this moment, this exact moment right now, where you are lying in the quiet, deserves a little attention, a little kindness. Take a breath in for me, from the very bottom of the belly. Good, and let it go. And as you breathe out, I want you to imagine that everything you were carrying today, every worry, every unfinished thought, every heavy thing is just leaving with that breath, just drifting away. You don't have to solve anything tonight. You don't have to figure anything out. You don't have to be anything other than exactly what you are right now. A person who deserves rest. A person who deserves sleep. Because you do. You really do. Whatever happened today, however hard it felt, however much it carried, you made it through. You are here. And that is enough. That is more than enough. You are safe. And you are here. Bring your awareness gently to your feet now. Just notice them and allow them to soften. The toes uncurling, the arches releasing. All the small held tension of the day simply letting go. Let that softness travel upward, through the calves, through the knees, the thighs. All of it warm, all of it heavy, all of it resting now. Your lower back, your hips. Allow yourself to feel the surface beneath you taking your weight completely, fully. You don't have to hold yourself up anymore. The earth has you. The old stone city has you. The belly soft, the chest soft, the heart beating steadily as it always has, as it always will. Your shoulders dropping, your arms heavy and warm, your hands open and still, the neck long and loose, and your face, let the jaw go. Let the forehead smooth. Let the eyes be completely still behind their lids. There you are, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, completely soft, completely warm, completely at rest. You've done beautifully. Now, let me take you somewhere the lamplight falls soft on old vellum, and the smell of parchment and beeswax and centuries fills a small stone room above a quiet street, and an old woman bends over a torn page with a needle finer than a hair, mending patiently what time has tried to undo. Come with me. The street in the evening. Imagine a street in Florence, not the wide, famous ones, not the piazza before the cathedral, with its crowds and its souvenir stalls and its endless photographs. Something smaller, a narrow street on the far side of the river, in the quarter the Florentines themselves still call Oltrarno, the other side of the Arno, away from the main tourist crush, where the old artisan workshops have survived, generation after generation, doing the same patient and exacting work they have always done. The evening here, the light has already gone from the street itself, the buildings on either side rising close enough together that the last of the day's sun left these particular stones an hour or more ago, even while the rooftops above still catch a final, fatting warmth. The street is cobbled, old stone, uneven, polished by centuries of feet and cartwheels, the kind of surface that requires you to watch where you place each step, though your feet, after a few minutes, find their own rhythm with it. The buildings, tall and narrow, the color of old plaster gone soft with whether ochre, faded rose, the warm brown gray of stone left bare. Wooden shutters, most of them closed now against the cooling evening air, though a few still stand open, lamplight spilling out in narrow gold rectangles onto the dark street below. The smell of the street, stone and dust, the particular dry mineral smell of a city built almost entirely of old quarried rock. Somewhere nearby, the smell of cooking garlic and the rich tomato warmth of a simple sauce simmering in someone's kitchen window above. And beneath both of these, very faintly, carried on whatever small current of air moves through this narrow channel of buildings, something else. Old paper, old leather, the smell very specific, very particular, of centuries of books. You follow it, a small wooden door, set into the stone facade between a shuttered cobbler's shop and a dark, closed bakery. Above the door, no sign at all, only a small brass plaque, worn nearly illegible, bearing a single word in faded engraving: Restauro, restoration. You push the door open. The staircase, a narrow stone stair, climbs upward from the small entryway, lit by a single bare bulb hanging from an old twisted wire, its light weak and yellow against the dark stone walls. The stair turns twice before it reaches the studio door. A heavy wooden door, old, its surface scarred with the small accumulated marks of centuries. A single brass nameplate fixed at eye level. The engraving so worn by decades of passing hands that you can barely make out the name beneath the tarnish. You knock. There is no answer for a long moment, long enough that you might wonder if anyone is here at all, in this quiet building, on this quiet street, at this quiet hour of the evening. Then faintly, from somewhere beyond the door, a voice. Avanti, come in. The door is unlocked. You push it open. The first breath, the smell finds you immediately, fuller now than it was on the street below, no longer diluted by the open air of the cobbled lane outside. Old paper, this is the dominant note, and it is more complex than most people, encountering it for the first time, expect it to be not a single simple smell, but a whole layered composition built from centuries of slowly decaying cellulose and lignin. The particular sweet, slightly vanilla-like fragrance that old paper releases as it ages. A compound chemists call lignin breakdown, though no chemist's term has ever quite captured what the nose actually receives, which is something closer to a warm, dusty sweetness, the smell of vanished libraries, the smell of time itself made faintly, specifically fragrant. Beneath the paper, leather, old binding leather, calfskin mostly, sometimes goatskin, treated centuries ago with oils and waxes that have, over the decades, developed their own deep, rich, slightly smoky fragrance, utterly different from the bright chemical smell of new leather, something closer to the smell of a very old saddle, oiled and used and loved for a very long time. And beneath the leather, beeswax, the restorer's wax, used in careful minute quantities to consolidate flacking pigment, to ease a stiff hinge, to do 100 small careful things that this particular craft requires. Its smell warm and faintly honeyed, rising gently from a small heated pot somewhere nearby, and underneath everything fainter, but unmistakable once you have learned to notice it, parchment itself. True parchment, made from treated animal skin rather than from wood pulp paper, carries its own distinct smell, something between leather and bone, dry and slightly mineral, the smell of a material that has been prepared by hand through a process essentially unchanged for over 1,000 years. You breathe it in. Your eyes adjust to the dim, warm light of the room. You say, the studio. The room is not large, perhaps the size of a modest bedroom. Its ceiling low and beamed, the beams dark with age, the same deep, honeyed brown that time gives to old wood everywhere. In this Florentine studio, exactly as in Henry Bellec's perfume workshop in Grasse, exactly as in the timbered ceiling of Merwin's Welsh cottage. The walls, stone, plastered over in a soft, warm cream that has itself aged to something closer to ivory, marked here and there with the faint shadows of old water stains, the slow, patient evidence of centuries of Florentine weather finding its way, very occasionally, through walls that have otherwise stood firm since the Renaissance. Shelves, floor to ceiling on 2 of the 4 walls, packed with books, not neatly, not for display, but the way a working library actually accumulates. Volumes of every size and age stacked both upright and flat, some bound in cracked leather, some in newer cloth, some entirely unbound, their loose pages held together with soft cotton tape, waiting their turn for attention. A large work table dominates the center of the room, positioned beneath the single tall window, angled to catch what daylight the narrow street allows during working hours. Though now, in the evening, its surface is lit instead by two careful lamps, their shades adjusted to throw warm, focused pools of light exactly where the work requires it and nowhere else. On the table, the evidence of careful, ongoing work. A manuscript open, its pages the color of strong tea, the ink upon them faded but still legible, careful Latin script in a hand that has not written anything new in perhaps 600 years. Small tools laid out with the precise, deliberate order of a surgeon's instruments, fine brushes, a bone folder, tiny weights to hold pages flat, a magnifying loupe on its own small stand, threads and needles finer than anything you have likely seen used for any ordinary sewing, and bent over all of it, in the warm pool of lamplight, the restorer, Signora Bianchi. She is 81 years old. Her name is Signora Bianchi, though everyone who has worked alongside her for more than a few months eventually comes simply to call her maestra, the old honorific for a master of a craft, a title she accepts with the same quiet, unfussy grace with which she accepts most things. Her given name is Elisabetta. She has worked in this studio, in this exact room, for 56 years. Since she was a young woman of 25, newly trained, apprenticed first to an older restorer named Signor Conti, who had himself learned the craft from his own teacher in the years just after the war, in the difficult, makeshift workshops that Florence's conservators improvised in the wake of the great 1966 flood, when the Arno rose and swallowed entire libraries, when tens of thousands of manuscripts and books were pulled, soaked and ruined from basements and ground floor archives across the city. That flood, more than any single event in the city's modern history, created the entire profession Elisabetta has spent her life practicing. Before 1966, manuscript restoration in Florence was a quiet, specialized trade practiced by a small handful of skilled hands. After 1966, with so many irreplaceable books and documents soaked through with muddy river water, with mold beginning to bloom across pages that had survived 700 years, undamaged, only to nearly be lost in a single catastrophic week. Restorers were needed urgently, in numbers the city had never required before. Elisabetta's own teacher was one of the volunteers who came in the chaos of that November to help save what could be saved. He stayed. He built this studio slowly across the following years, out of the skills that emergency had forced an entire generation of conservators to develop quickly, and then refine patiently for the rest of their working lives. Elisabetta has carried that legacy forward for 56 years. She bends now over the manuscript before her, a small, fine needle held with perfect steadiness between her fingers, mending a tear in a page that has survived since the 14th century and very nearly did not survive the 20th. The evening's work. She is repairing a tear, not a dramatic one, a small split along one edge of the page, perhaps 4 centimeters long, the kind of damage that comes from centuries of careful but inevitable handling. The page folded and unfolded, the book opened and closed, until some small fiber of the old paper finally gave way. This is, in many ways, the most common kind of damage Elisabetta has spent her career addressing. Not the dramatic, headline-making catastrophes, the floods and fires that occasionally claim a library all at once, but the slow, patient, ordinary wear of time itself. Centuries of hands turning pages. Centuries of light, however carefully filtered, gradually weakening fibers. Centuries of humidity rising and falling with the seasons. The paper itself expanding and contracting almost imperceptibly with each cycle, until, eventually, something gives. Her repair material is a thin strip of Japanese tissue, a specially made paper, almost impossibly thin and light, prepared from the long fibers of the kozo plant, a material conservators across the world have come to rely on precisely because its fibers are long enough to bridge a tear with extraordinary strength, while remaining nearly invisible once applied. She has cut this strip by hand, using a small brush dipped in water to define its edge rather than a blade. A technique that leaves the tissue's fibers feathered and soft at the boundary, so that when it is finally adhered, the repair blends almost seamlessly into the original page rather than creating a hard, visible edge. The adhesive wheat starch paste, made fresh in small batches in the studio's own small kitchen corner, cooked slowly over a low flame until it reaches exactly the right consistency, neither too thick nor too thin, a material that has been the standard adhesive of paper conservation for decades precisely because it is reversible. If some future conservator, decades or centuries from now, needs to undo this exact repair, the wheat starch paste will release its hold with nothing more aggressive than a little gentle moisture. This principle, reversibility, sits near the very center of everything Elisabetta does. You do not impose a permanent solution on a 400-year-old object. You make the smallest, gentlest intervention that will hold, and you make it in a way that respects whoever might need to intervene again, long after you yourself are gone. She applies the tissue strip now with a fine brush, smoothing it gently along the tear with the soft, practiced motion of 56 years of exactly this kind of careful work. The tools of the studio. Let me tell you about the instruments laid out on Elisabetta's work table, because Each one carries its own small history, its own particular purpose, refined across centuries of this craft's slow development. The bone folder, a simple, smooth tool, shaped something like a wide, flat letter opener, traditionally made from a cow's rib bone, polished to a soft ivory sheen by decades of handling. It is used to crease and smooth paper and to burnish small repairs, the bone's particular hardness and smoothness allowing pressure to be applied evenly without scratching or damaging delicate old surfaces in the way a metal tool sometimes might. Elisabetta's bone folder was her teacher's before it was hers. It is worn now into a shape very slightly different from when it was new. Decades of pressure from a particular angle of grip, having softened one edge more than the other. She does not consider this where a flaw. She considers it in a way she has never quite articulated aloud, a kind of inheritance. The tool shaped slowly by the hands that have used it, exactly as the great cathedral steps of this city have been shaped by centuries of feet, exactly as Lorenzo's garden tools in a different city entirely were shaped by Bernardo's hands before they were shaped by his. The fine brushes, several of them, ranging from a single fine sable hair to a slightly broader badger hair brush used for larger areas of consolidation work. A small heated spatula used occasionally for setting certain kinds of repair under gentle, controlled warmth. Tiny lead weights, smooth and dark, used to hold pages or repairs flat and still while in adhesive sets. A humble, simple solution to a problem that has not really changed in essential character since manuscripts were first being copied and bound 1,000 years and more ago. A magnifying loupe on its own adjustable stand, allowing Elisabetta to examine the finest details of ink, of paper fiber, of the smallest signs of insect damage or mold. At a level of detail her unaided eye, even at the height of her younger years, could never quite achieve. Each tool simple, each tool exact, each tool serving a purpose refined, in most cases, across centuries of trial and careful, patient correction. The manuscript, the book Elisabetta is working on tonight, is not, in itself, one of the world's truly great treasures. Not a Dante manuscript, not a Botticelli sketchbook, nothing that would draw international attention or appear in any famous museum catalog. It is instead something quieter and in its own way equally precious. A book of hours, a devotional manuscript made in the 15th century for a wealthy Florentine family whose name, though once locally significant, means little to anyone outside a small circle of historians today. A private prayer book, illuminated with small, careful paintings, intended to guide its original owner through the daily and seasonal cycle of Christian devotion that structured so much of life in this city 600 years ago. It came to Elisabetta's studio from a private collection, the current owner a descendant, many generations removed, of the family who originally commissioned it, the book having been passed down, generation after generation, through the kind of quiet domestic inheritance that keeps countless smaller treasures like this one in private hands, largely unknown to the wider world, cherished nonetheless by the families who have kept them. The page Elisabetta repairs tonight bears, in its margin, a small illumination, a delicate, carefully painted border of acanthus leaves and small gold flourishes, the gold leaf itself still catching the lamplight with a soft, warm glow, despite the centuries that have passed since some anonymous illuminator first applied it. She has spent the better part of 3 weeks on this single manuscript so far. She will likely spend several more before the work is complete. This is, by the standards of her own working life, an entirely ordinary pace. Manuscript conservation does not move quickly, cannot move quickly, not if it is to be done with the patience and precision the work actually requires. The history of the craft. Let me tell you something about this profession, because it is older and stranger and more specific than most people realize. The deliberate, careful preservation and repair of written texts is almost as old as writing itself. Medieval monastic scribes maintained their own libraries with careful attention, recopying texts whose physical pages had begun to fail, repairing torn vellum with fine stitches of thread, a technique that long predates the paper and paste methods Elisabetta uses today. But that addresses, in essence, exactly the same problem: a tear, a weakness, a page that needs to be made whole again, so the words upon it can continue to be read. But the modern profession of paper and book conservation, as a distinct, formally trained craft, is considerably younger, really coming into its full modern form only in the 20th century, and in Florence specifically, crystallizing with particular urgency in the aftermath of that catastrophic 1966 flood. The flood is still spoken of in this city's conservation community, almost the way certain natural disasters are spoken of in places that have rebuilt entirely around the memory of them. On the 4th of November, 1966, after days of heavy rain across the Tuscan hills, the Arno River rose with extraordinary speed and violence, overwhelming Florence's ancient flood defenses, surging through the historic center with a force that swept away cars, destroyed shops, and poured, eventually, into the lower floors and basements of countless libraries and archives across the city, including significant parts of the Biblioteca Nazionale, the National Library, where hundreds of thousands of books and manuscripts were submerged in cold, muddy, all-contaminated water. Volunteers came from across Italy and across the world. Students, scholars, ordinary citizens, working alongside the city's own conservators in makeshift drying and treatment centers, improvised in whatever large dry spaces could be found, racing against the mold that begins to bloom on wet paper within days, sometimes within hours. Many books were lost entirely. Many more were saved, though saving them often meant years, sometimes decades, of careful, patient restoration work. Work that, in the process, taught an entire generation of conservators techniques and approaches that had never before been needed at this scale. Work that effectively created the modern Florentine conservation profession almost overnight, out of catastrophe and improvisation. And an enormous collective, well, not to lose what so nearly had been lost forever. Elisabeta's teacher was part of that generation. Elisabetta herself trained under him in the years immediately following, learning techniques that had themselves only recently been developed, refined in the urgent crucible of that one terrible November. She thinks of this history often, working quietly in her small studio on ordinary evenings like this one. The careful, exact, patient methods she uses tonight on this 15th century book of hours exist in their present form only because of a disaster that happened decades before she was born, transformed through the work of people she never met into the steady, reliable craft she has practiced for 56 years. The light in the studio. Let me describe the particular quality of light in this room, because it matters enormously to the work Elisabetta does, and because it has its own quiet beauty entirely apart from its practical purpose. During the day, the tall window admits the narrow, filtered daylight of this close Florentine street. Never direct, never harsh, the surrounding buildings ensuring that whatever sun does reach this room arrives soft and indirect. Exactly the gentle, even, ultraviolet-reduced light that old paper and faded pigments need in order to be examined safely, without further damage from the very light that allows them to be seen at all. In the evening, like now, the work continues under two carefully positioned lamps, their bulbs chosen specifically for their low ultraviolet output, their shades angled to throw warm, focused light exactly onto the work table's surface, while leaving the rest of the small room in a soft, comfortable dimness. This lamplight has a particular quality, warm, golden, slightly amber, the kind of light that makes old paper glow faintly from within, the kind of light that catches gold leaf and makes it shimmer the way its long-dead illuminator surely intended it to shimmer 600 years ago. In whatever candlelit room the Book of Hours was first opened and read, Elisabetta has worked under this exact quality of light for 56 years. She finds it, even now, even after so many thousands of evening hours spent exactly this way, quietly beautiful. The small, warm pool of golden light, the dark, comfortable dimness surrounding it, the manuscript's pages glowing softly within that pool like something almost alive, something that has waited patiently in darkness and silence for centuries, and is, for these few hours, finally being seen again, attended to again, cared for again. She bends back over her work. The needle catches the light, the sound of the studio. If you were to sit quietly in this small room beside Elisabetta, this is what you would hear. Very little at first. The studio is, by its nature, a quiet place. Loud sounds, sudden movements, anything abrupt or careless, simply have no place in work this delicate. And Elisabetta long ago trained her own body, her own movements, into a kind of permanent, settled quietness that matches the work itself. The faint, papery whisper of a page being turned carefully with gloved fingertips, the sound so soft it would be entirely lost beneath almost any other ambient noise. The smaller, even fainter sound of her needle passing through old paper, a sound you would have to listen for very specifically to notice at all. Not a tearing sound, never that, but the tiniest possible friction of fine thread finding its way through fiber that has been carefully prepared to receive it. The occasional soft clink of a tool set down on the worktable's surface, replaced after use with deliberate, careful precision. From outside, filtered through the old glass of the tall window, the faint, distant sounds of the street below, a scooter passing, somewhere several streets away, the brief murmur of two people talking as they pass beneath the window, a church bell, somewhere across the river, marking some hour with a few slow, resonant tones that carry, faintly, across the rooftops of this whole quiet quarter. And beneath all of this, present, but almost unnoticed, the small, steady tick of an old clock on a shelf in the corner of the studio. Not a dramatic ticking, not loud enough to be intrusive, simply a quiet, patient marker of time passing, entirely appropriate, somehow, in a room devoted to the careful preservation of objects that have already outlasted so very much time already. This is the sound of careful work, quiet, layered, almost entirely without urgency. The family of Aristioariares. Elisabetta did not learn this craft alone, and she has not practiced it alone for the entirety of her career. For many years, she worked alongside her own husband, Giorgio, also a conservator, though he specialized more particularly in bindings. The leather and boards and sewn structures that hold a book's pages together. A related but distinct skill from Elisabetta's own focus on the paper and parchment and pigment of the pages themselves. They met, in fact, in the very aftermath of the 1966 flood. Both of them young volunteers working at one of the city's improvised drying centers, passing soaked, mud-stained pages to each other across long tables set up in whatever dry space could be found. A shared dedication to this strange, urgent, exhausting work, slowly becoming something more personal across the difficult weeks and months of that recovery effort. They married 3 years later. They worked together in the same small studio for over 4 decades. Their two specialties complementing each other naturally. Elisabetta repairing a damaged page, Giorgio rebinding the volume it belonged to, each trusting completely in the other's careful judgment, each understanding, in the deep way that only decades of shared work can produce, exactly how the other approached a problem, exactly what standard of care the other would never compromise on. Giorgio died 6 years ago. Elisabetta still works in this same studio, at this same table, beneath this same warm lamplight. Though she works alone more often now, the binding side of the room, his side, still arranged much as he left it. His own tools still hanging in their accustomed places on the wall above his old workbench, kept tidy and ready, though it has been some years since anyone but Elisabetta herself has used it. She does not find this arrangement sad, exactly, though she would not deny that it carries a particular kind of quiet weight. She finds it mostly simply right. This is how the studio is. This is how it has always been arranged, since long before Giorgio's death. And changing it now would feel like a kind of forgetting. She has no interest in practicing. The apprentice, there is a young woman, 26 years old, who comes to this studio 3 days each week, learning from Elisabetta exactly as Elisabetta once learned from her own teacher in the difficult years after the flood. Her name is Francesca. She trained formally for several years at one of Florence's specialized conservation schools, institutions that exist today in their modern form, largely because of the urgent need the 1966 flood created. Schools that did not need to exist in anything like their current scale before that disaster forced an entire profession to formalize and expand its training. But formal schooling, however excellent, only takes a young conservator so far. The real, final layer of this craft's transmission still happens exactly the way it always has: an experienced hand working alongside a less experienced one, across months and years of shared practice. The older conservators accumulated judgment slowly, patiently passed forward into the younger ones' own developing hands and eyes. Francesca was here earlier this evening, before Elisabetta sent her home for the night, working on a simpler repair on a different, less precious volume, a 19th century parish record book with several damaged pages. Good practice material, the kind of project Elisabetta gives her newer students before trusting them with anything as old or as valuable as tonight's book of hours. Elisabetta watched her work this evening with the same quiet, attentive care she gives to every aspect of her work, correcting, gently, a slightly too firm pressure on the bone folder, suggesting, without insisting, a different angle for a particular brush stroke. Francesca is good, better in some ways, at this same age, than Elisabetta remembers being herself. She will, Elisabetta privately believes, become an excellent conservator in her own right, carrying this same careful, patient, exacting craft forward into a future Elisabetta herself will not see, exactly as Elisabetta has carried it forward for 56 years now, from a teacher she still thinks of often with quiet gratitude. What restoration, TEACHES, Elisabetta has thought, across 56 years of exactly this kind of careful evening work, about what this craft has taught her, not in any grand or self-conscious way, simply in the slow, accumulated manner that any patient craft eventually teaches its practitioner something true about the wider shape of a life. The work teaches humility. First, you are not creating something new in this craft. You are not the author of the words on the page before you, not the artist who painted the small gold-leafed flourish in the margin. You are, instead, a kind of servant to someone else's original work. Your entire skill measured by how invisibly, how respectfully you can intervene, how completely your own hand can disappear into the service of preserving a hand far older than your own. This requires a particular kind of ego, or rather, Elisabetta has come to think, a particular and deliberate absence of one. The work also teaches reversibility, not just as a technical principle, governing which adhesives and materials a careful conservator chooses to use, but as a kind of broader life lesson Elisabetta has, almost without meaning to, absorbed into her wider thinking. Make the gentlest intervention that will actually hold. Leave room for someone else, later, wiser, or simply more informed than you currently are, to undo what you have done if it turns out, eventually, to have been the wrong choice. Do not impose permanence where genuine humility would counsel a lighter, more careful touch. And the work teaches, perhaps above everything else, a particular relationship with time itself, and relationship very different from the relationship most modern life encourages. This page has survived 600 years. It will, if Elisabetta's careful evening work succeeds, survive several hundred more. Her own contribution to this immense span of time is, in the largest sense, almost vanishingly small. A few careful hours, on a handful of evenings, in one small studio, in one particular century, in the very long life of one particular book. And yet that small contribution matters enormously, precisely because of how small and careful and exact it is. This, Elisabetta has come to believe, is true of most worthwhile work, in any craft, in any life. Small, careful, patient contributions, made with full attention, to things that will long outlast the person making them. The church bells, somewhere across the river, a church bell marks an hour. Elisabetta does not look up to check which one, having long since learned to recognize this particular bell's tone without needing to count its strokes consciously. The way a person recognizes a familiar voice without needing to see the speaker's face. It is later than she usually stays on an ordinary evening, but this particular tier in this particular page was nearly finished, and Elisabetta has learned across 56 years that certain small repairs are better completed in a single sustained sitting than left half done overnight. The tissue and paste needing the right combination of attention and patient drying time that an interrupted process sometimes complicates. She sets down her needle. She examines the repair, now complete, under her magnifying loupe. The fine Japanese tissue blended almost seamlessly into the old page's surface. The tear closed, strengthened, very nearly invisible to anyone who did not already know precisely where to look. She allows herself a small, quiet satisfaction. Not pride, exactly. Pride has never felt quite like the right word for what this work produces in her, after so many decades of practicing it. Something quieter. A simple, settled rightness, the particular satisfaction of having done a careful thing carefully, of having given a small, damaged, centuries-old object exactly the patient attention it required and deserved. She closes the manuscript gently, placing a soft, protective tissue between the repaired page and its neighbors, setting small weights along its closed edges to discourage any new cockling. As the repair finishes its slow, overnight drying, the book of hours rests now on the work table, closed, patient, its small repair holding its centuries of accumulated history safely, if very slightly, extended forward into the future. The walk home, Elisabetta gathers her things, a light shawl against the evening's cooling air, the small leather satchel she has carried to and from this studio for decades, its strap worn soft and dark exactly where her shoulder has rested it for so many years. She extinguishes the two careful lamps, one at a time, the room settling into the deeper darkness, lit only by the faint glow of streetlight filtering up through the tall window from below. She locks the heavy studio door behind her, the worn brass key turning in its lock with the small, familiar resistance she has felt countless times before. She descends the narrow stone stair beneath its single weak bulb and steps out onto the cobbled street, into the cool evening air. The street is quieter now than it was an hour ago. Most of the shuttered shops fully dark now, only a few lit windows still glowing here and there along the narrow lane, the smell of someone's late supper still lingering faintly in the air. She walks home slowly, the way she has walked this same short route home for over 5 decades, her feet finding the familiar unevenness of these old stones without requiring much conscious attention, her mind drifting gently over the evening's work, over the small satisfaction of a tear successfully closed, over the quiet pleasure of watching Francesca's steady progress earlier in the day. The river, when her route briefly brings her along its bank, moves dark and quiet below the old stone bridges, the same Arno that rose so catastrophically in 1966, calm tonight, utterly unremarkable, exactly as it is on most ordinary evenings, exactly as it was for centuries before that one terrible November, exactly as it has been for most of the long span of nights between then and now. She crosses a small bridge. She continues toward home, the studio AT night. Behind her, in the small stone room she has just left, The studio settles into its own particular quiet. The lamps are dark now. The only light comes from the tall window, the faint ambient glow of the street below filtering up, soft and gray, just enough to outline the shapes of the shelves, the work table, the closed manuscript resting beneath its careful weights. The book of hours rests in this dim, quiet light, its newly repaired page slowly, patiently drying. The wheat starch paste setting overnight exactly as it has set countless times before, on countless similar repairs, across this studio's 56 years. Around it, on every shelf, hundreds of other books and documents wait their own turn. Some barely begun, some nearly finished, each one carrying its own small portion of accumulated history, each one entrusted, for however long its particular repair requires, to this small, quiet room above a quiet Florentine street. Giorgio's old workbench stands tidy in its corner, his tools still hanging where he left them. 6 years now, undisturbed except for Elisabetta's own occasional, careful dusting. The old clock on its shelf continues its small, steady ticking. The only sound now in the whole dark, settled room, marking time's continued passage with the same patient, unhurried regularity it has marked it with for as long as Elisabetta can remember it being there. The street outside grows quieter still. The last few lit windows along the lane going dark one by one as the evening deepens further toward true night. The other books, let me tell you briefly about some of the other volumes waiting on these shelves, because each one carries its own small, particular story, its own small claim on Elisabetta's patient attention. A set of household account books from the 17th century, kept by a Florentine merchant family, their pages filled with the small, specific, almost mundane details of ordinary commercial life 4 centuries ago. Purchases of cloth, payments to laborers, the small daily transactions of a household that has long since vanished from any other record, preserved now only in these careful, water-damaged pages that a descendant brought to Elisabetta's studio several months ago, hopping to save what family history remained legible. A single, badly damaged leaf from what may once have been a far larger illuminated manuscript. Its origin and original context, now entirely lost, purchased decades ago by a private collector from some dealer whose own records were incomplete. The page itself bearing only a fragment of text and a single, beautifully painted small image of a saint whose identity Elisabetta has never been entirely certain of. A modern artist's sketchbook, surprisingly, from the early 20th century. Its pages brittle now with the particular acidic decay that affects certain kinds of more recent paper far more severely than the much older, better-made parchment and rag paper of earlier centuries. A reminder, Elisabetta often thinks, that age alone does not determine fragility, that the careful hand craftsmanship of earlier eras sometimes produced more durable materials than the cheaper, more hurried processes of more recent ones. Each of these waits patiently on its shelf for its turn beneath Elisabetta's lamp. Some have waited months, some given the realities of a small studio's limited capacity, and Elisabetta's own careful, unhurried pace have waited considerably longer. None of them mind the waiting, of course. Paper and parchment have no impatience of their own, no sense of time passing at all, except in the slow, physical way that time inevitably, gradually, works upon any material object. They simply wait until their turn comes. The quiet confidence of old things. There is something Elisabetta has come to feel across 56 years of working closely with objects that have survived centuries. A particular quality she has never quite found the right words for, even after a lifetime of trying, in her own private thoughts, to understand it properly. Old books, old manuscripts, old documents of every kind carry a particular kind of settled, patient confidence that newer objects rarely seem to possess. This is not, she knows perfectly well, some mystical property actually residing in the paper, or the ink, or the binding itself. It is, rather, something about what survival across centuries seems to teach an attentive observer, the way watching any old, enduring thing, an ancient cypress, a slow-burning charcoal mound, a steady captain's hand on a worn ship's wheel, seems to communicate, wordlessly, a particular kind of calm. This book has survived 600 years. It has survived fires it was never directly caught in, floods that came close but did not quite reach it, the simple, ordinary erosion of centuries of handling, the occasional careless owner, the long stretches of complete neglect in some forgotten attic or basement, before finally, somehow, arriving here, on this table, beneath this lamp, in these careful, attentive hands. It has, in its own wordless way, already proven something about endurance that Elisabetta finds, on her more reflective evenings, quietly reassuring. Things can survive. Carefully made things, carefully tended, can outlast disasters and neglect, and the ordinary wearing passage of years can arrive, against considerable odds, into hands that will care for them properly. Even after centuries of uncertainty, she finds this thought comforting. In the particular quiet way she finds most of her deepest thoughts comforting. Not loudly, not dramatically, simply a steady, settled certainty that has accumulated slowly across more than 5 decades of evidence. The night DPNS. Outside the closed studio, Florence continues its own quiet nighttime existence. Restaurants in the busier quarters still serving late diners. A few bars near the river still lit and lively. But here, in this quieter artisan district on the far side of the Arno, the night has settled into something close to true stillness. A cat moves along the cobbled street outside the studio's locked door, pausing briefly at the base of the building, sniffing at something of interest before continuing on its own private nighttime business. Somewhere nearby, a shutter, left slightly ajar, creaks very softly in a small current of night air. The church bells across the river mark another hour, their tone carrying clearly through the cool, still air, audible even here, in this quiet street, even though the church itself stands some considerable distance away. The Arno continues its dark, steady flow beneath the city's old bridges, carrying, as it has carried for centuries, the accumulated rain of the Tuscan hills down toward the distant sea, indifferent, on this calm, ordinary night, to the catastrophic flood it once produced, indifferent to the entire profession of careful, patient restoration that disaster, decades ago, brought into being. The city sleeps, gradually, quarter by quarter, its old stone buildings holding the day's last warmth slowly into the cooling night. And in the small, dark, quiet studio above the cobbled lane, the Book of Hours rests on its work table, its newly mended page drying slowly and patiently in the dark, exactly as it needs to, exactly as it will, by morning, when Elisabetta returns to check its progress and continue, carefully, the next small stage of its long, slow restoration. You are drifting. You are still in the studio, or somewhere very like it. The warm lamplight settled now into darkness, the manuscript resting quietly beneath its careful weights. The smell of old paper and beeswax and leather still lingers in the air around you. Even in the dark, even in the quiet, Elisabetta is walking home slowly, along streets she has walked for 50 years. Her own evening's careful work now complete. The small satisfaction of a tear successfully mended settling into her, the way it has settled into her after countless similar evenings across her long career. All of it here, all of it holding you. Your breathing has slowed to match the patient, unhurried rhythm of this whole quiet craft. The careful needle, the slow drying paste, the centuries-old page resting, trusting in careful modern hands. This is what a restoration studio teaches, if you allow yourself to receive it, even only in imagination, even only for this one quiet hour before your own sleep arrives. That the smallest, most careful attention, given consistently and patiently over time, can mend what seems, at first glance, too damaged or too fragile to ever be made whole again. That you do not need to rush toward wholeness. That gentle, reversible, patient care, given fully, given without hurry, given with complete respect for what came before, is, in the end, the only kind of care that truly lasts. You do not need to mend anything tonight. You do not need to repair or fix or solve. You can simply rest, the way the manuscript rests, trusting patiently that whatever careful attention you need will continue steadily for as long as it takes. The last things, the studio rests in darkness, its 2 lamps extinguished, its heavy door locked against the quiet night. The Book of Hours lies closed on the work table, its newly repaired page drying slowly beneath soft protective tissue and small, careful weights. Giorgio's old workbench stands tidy in its corner, his tools still hanging in their accustomed places. 6 years of quiet, careful dusting, having kept them exactly as he left them. The shelves hold their hundreds of waiting volumes, account books and sketchbooks, and fragments of forgotten illuminated pages. Each one patient, each one waiting its own turn beneath the lamp. The old clock continues its small, steady ticking. The only sound now in the whole dark, settled room. Elisabetta has reached her own home by now, has likely already settled into her own quiet evening routine. Her satchel set down, her shawl removed, the day's careful work complete, and resting easily behind her. Francesca is at home too, somewhere across the city, perhaps already thinking ahead to tomorrow's session at the studio, to the parish record book waiting for her continued attention. The Arno flows on, dark and steady, beneath its old bridges, carrying the accumulated rain of the hills toward the sea, exactly as it has for centuries, exactly as it will for centuries more. The city sleeps, the studio sleeps, the manuscript, 600 years old, very slightly mended tonight, rests in the dark, patient, trusting, exactly as it has trusted careful hands across so many centuries before this one. The studio is dark, the lamps are out, the manuscript rests beneath its careful weights. The tear is mended, the paste is drying slowly, exactly as it should. The bone folder rests on the work table, worn smooth by 2 lifetimes of careful hands. Giorgio's tools hang in their corner, dusted, tidy, waiting. The shelves hold their patient volumes, each one waiting its own turn. The old clock is ticking, quiet, steady, unhurried. Elisabetta is home, her evening's careful work complete. Francesca is home too, learning slowly what Elisabetta knows. The chain continues, link by careful link. The Arno flows dark and steady beneath the old bridges, carrying the hills rain toward the sea, as it always has. The city sleeps, quarter by quarter, stone holding the day's last warmth. You are held tonight too, by this same patient, careful attention, by the same gentle trust that lets 600-year-old pages rest easily in modern hands. You do not need to mend anything tonight. You only need to rest the way the manuscript rests, trusting, patient, whole again in its own quiet way. You are safe. You are warm. You are held in the studio, above the quiet street, in the old stone city by the river. The lamp will be lit again tomorrow. The work will continue patiently, as it always does. And you can simply rest. Good night, dear friend. Sleep well. Sleep deeply. Good night.